Okay, now we're going to make a tassel skirt. I've chosen the board that we're going to be using. Here's some other ones. You just want to choose an appropriate length based on usually your form and what the purpose of the tassel is going to be. If it's going to be a tie back or a scissor tassel or a key tassel. But for these, I use this form right here because these are just fun little tassels just to learn the techniques. Hopefully you'll use it. Give it as a gift. They make great gifts. Here's my warped threads. You'll need to watch the video on warping threads to get this. It's basically a warp of threads, which is threads all put together so that you can use them as one. Our 28 gauge wire, you may want to use 26 or 24 until you get used to it, because sometimes the wire will break as you're going through this process. Now this process, once you get this down, weaving this wire over the warp of threads, you will be able to make just about any tassel. This is just a basic foundation technique, and after that, after you've mastered that, it's just a matter of learning the embellishments. Okay, I'm going to cut myself off about 2 yards of this wire, and I'm not one for measuring. I just kind of use the arm's length excuse me, rubric. Alright, I've got it folded in half. Clip that. Okay, and then we have this already folded in half for us up here. I'm going to take this and make a loop, because we're going to want to, on this tassel, probably go ahead and loop the wire to attach the ruff in the skirt. That way it'll be sort of temporary, and if you want to add embellishments later, you can. You could also choose to glue it, and if you did, you wouldn't need to do this step. But I've got the top loop, and I'm just going to, with my fingers, just twist that a few times just to secure that loop. And I'm going to take my warp of threads, leave a tail about as long as the board, and I'm going to insert that into the fold that's below the loop. And then I'm going to twist that. That secures the warped threads in the wires. Now, that gives me basically what I would call 2 wires hanging down. Right? So there's 2 wires hanging down. And I'm going to take my skirt board and I'm going to place that between the wires. Okay, so now at this point I'm going to say that I have 1 wire in the front and 1 wire in the back. Okay. I'm going to hold those wires off to the left along with that initial tail of warped threads. Okay. Now here's the process. Keep the warp off to the right and always the wires off to the left, unless you're working with them. I'm going to take the warp of thread, bring it toward me, around the skirt board, and hold. So I'm using my index finger to hold the warp threads behind the skirt board. Now remember, I have 1 wire in the back. That wire is going to come forward, and the one in the back is going to go behind. So they're switching places. Now I'm making, you see, a little wire loop, and my front wire is now the back wire, and my back wire is now the front wire. And you're going to grab those with your left hand. Again, the movement is, I'm tangled up and everything, warp to the front, toward you, over the board, to the back, hold with your index finger, back wire to the front. A little awkward right here, me trying to do this for the camera. And front wire to the back, grab them with your left hand and hold. warp to the front. This is the cool part about videos. When I first started teaching this 15 or 16 years ago, we didn't have as much YouTube and videos and things like that. So I never distributed a video of this. So basically they had to get it in class. But now you can watch this video as many times as you'd like until you get it. Back wire comes forward, front wire goes back. And we are going to catch those to the left, keep them out of the way. The warp of threads comes forward, goes to the back, grab it, back wire to the front wire to the back, and let's do one more. Warp to the front, keep those wires out of the way, off to the left, you see. You don't want to get them tangled up in the warp. Warp to the front, bring to the back, hold, back wire to the front wire to the back. Now, you see what this looks like. We have a little lump on each of these little areas where we've hooked the wires. If you look on top, all we're basically doing is just making a little twist over the wires. So when we're doing that back to the front to the back thing, we're creating that twist and catching that warp up at the top. So you'll have this little ridge. To me, if you're a stitcher, it looks like a stem stitch running across the top. Okay, so now we've gone all the way across. I've come to the end of my warp of threads. Get a nice even set of warped threads going across here. Now I'm all finished, so I'm going to take the wires, and you want to twist them to secure the last of the warp. What I usually do is I take the whole board, I just find it's easier, and just give it a few twists like that. Okay, I've got a lot of wire left over, and I'm not going to need that much, so I'm going to go ahead and clip those. I usually save this wire. I know that sounds crazy, but when I make little fairies, I can use that for their wings. Alright, now you can see that this board is a little bit bent from the use that it's had. Yours may become bent too. Just try to keep your loops of your warped threads fairly loose. They need to be snug up against the board, but you want to keep them fairly loose. I have actually seen students, they go home and they have to do this for the, for their weekly homework, and they come back and it's so tight that it's buckled like this. You don't want to do that, and there's no reason for that. Have a glass of wine or something if you're of age. Make sure that you don't get it too tight. Okay, so you see I have to bend it to get this off of the skirt board. And mine's a bit snug, and that's okay. It's the way we like it. It's going to come off eventually. It's pretty hardy, but I wouldn't give it too much pressure up on the top. So, just about off of there. I'll use this again. And here we go. We have a skirt. Now, one of the things that's kind of neat about this is if you tug on this, it will expand. And this is a good thing because we're hopefully going to get this to go around the form twice, and if we're really lucky, it'll go around 3 complete turns. You just want to make sure you have enough to go all the way around, otherwise it'll look lopsided. So I'm not going to attach it just yet. I just want to see how that looks. So there's one. I've got it 2 times around and about half. But if I stretch a little bit more, I might be able to get it all the way around a 3rd time. If not, 2 will be fine. If you're gluing the skirt, you can always do another one on your board, just like we did before. and attach it on top. You can put as many skirts around it as you want to. So there's one turn, there's 2 turns, and it looks like I'm going to get 3 turns out of it after all. So you can see, here's our models that were starting to come together very nicely. Okay, my next video will be making the ruff, which is almost exactly like making the skirt, except we will be doing this over a knitting needle. So we have the skirt, we have the form, we'll make the ruff, then we'll make a cord, we'll put it all together.